Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Jeremy Tache, and this is Hitting the Field. I'm joined by Carl-Max Millionard and Dimitri Tzamaras, Jimmy Calhoun and Chris Davis later. But before we get started, let me introduce you to our show. Hitting the Field is your premier sports talk show here at the University of Central Florida. We will cover all things sports around UCF and nationally, whether that's in college sports or the professional landscape. We're excited to be back with a brand new format this year as well. Each week, there will be an introduction and recap from me, and then our panelists will face off in a game show style competition to see who can take home the victory. The competition will be one-on-one through 2 segments, and the winners will square off in the final round that we like to call the joust. Our victor not only gets bragging rights, but a chance to be featured on our Night Vision, which will be a minute-long feature on our social media pages. So that's our format, and if you don't understand it, you're about to see it in action. Before we get to the NFL, NBA, and college football, I have to talk about the World Series champion Chicago Cubs. This was one of the best World Series most of us have ever seen, but Game 7 was one of the best games in Major League history. No, it wasn't the cleanest game, the most well-executed game, or even the closest game throughout, but the drama was unmatched. In the first 5 innings of the game, the Cubs took a healthy 5-1 lead, with homers from Dexter Fowler and Javi Baez to knock Corey Kluber out of the game. In the bottom of the 5th, Joe Maddon was a little too quick with the hook, taking out Kyle Hendricks for John Lester, bringing him in with runners on, a tough position for a starting pitcher. After a bunt base hit, a wild throw from David Ross, and a wild pitch by Lester, the inning ended with the Cubs leading just 5-3. Bottom of the 6th, David Ross, the emotional leader of the Cubs, playing in his last career game, hits a solo shot to straightaway center. This was one of the moments that may end up buried in this narrative, but it was one of the most heartwarming moments you'll ever see on a ball field. So let's fast forward to the bottom of the 8th. Again, Maddon is arguably too quick with the hook, bringing in the physically exhausted Aroldis Chapman, who recorded 8 outs the night before. So, with 2 outs in the 8th, Chapman enters to face Brandon Guyer with a man on and a 6-3 lead. Guyer doubles, drives in 1, and the next batter, Rajai Davis, well, he steps in, fouls off multiple pitches, and on the 8th fastball of the at-bat, Davis homers to left and ties the game at 6. The 9th was scoreless, and then, because it's the Cubs and Cleveland, there's a rain delay before we can start extra innings. But this delay gave the Cubs life. Kyle Schwarber got things started, Albert Almora Jr. tagged from first on a deep fly ball from Chris Bryant, and to get to scoring position. This never shows up in the box score, but it was one of the single most important plays in this game because it led to an intentional walk of Anthony Rizzo that brought up the fearless Ben Zobrist. He then delivered the RBI double, and Montero added another one as we head to the bottom of the 10th. Cleveland pushed one across to make it interesting, but Mike Montgomery recorded the final out, and the Cubs went on to win their first World Series in 108 years. What made this game, this series, so incredible was the drama. Corey Kluber wasn't perfect. John Lester wasn't perfect. Javi Baez wasn't perfect. Aroldis Chapman wasn't perfect. Joe Maddon sure wasn't perfect. And even Rajai Davis, who in a sense was a hero, wasn't perfect. But that's what made this game and this series perfect. It was perfect in its imperfections, and that's baseball. It's not always clean. It's not always full of hard hits or high flyers, but it's chock full of intricacies that make it a great game. It takes 27 outs to win. There's no clock and no way to just bide your time until you get the win. And Game 7 absolutely took 27 outs. Moving on to the NFL, now for our competition. The big game this weekend was last night's matchup between the Raiders and the Broncos. The Raiders surprisingly used their running game to beat up on the Broncos. UCF's own Latavius Murray ran for $114 on 20 carries for 3 touchdowns. Carr was good and did just enough for the team to win. So this was a statement win. Carl, are you sold that the Raiders are a legitimate threat in the AFC?
I am sold that they are a legitimate threat in the AFC. Not only did they beat the defending champion Denver Broncos, they are 7-2. Only 3 teams in the NFL with 7 wins. That's the Cowboys, the Raiders, and the Patriots. They did so, not so with the passing game, but they got the running game going with Latavius Murray and his 3 touchdowns over 100 yards. So I definitely believe that the Oakland Raiders are a threat in the AFC.
For me, I don't believe that the Raiders are a true threat in the AFC because we know to get to the Super Bowl from the AFC, you have to beat the New England Patriots. And to beat the New England Patriots, you have to be strong on defense, especially against the passing game and Tom Brady. Currently, where the season stands through 9 games, the Raiders rank 30th in pass defense in the league, giving up 283 yards per game. And in the playoffs, you're going to have to play Big Ben, Brady, and Carr's good, but in his 3rd year, it'll be interesting to see if he can elevate his play in the playoffs to compete with greats who we've seen do it before.
And I'm going to have to agree with Meech on that one, where as much as the game comes down to who can score the most points, the defense really makes that happen. And with the Raiders' secondary kind of lacking, I'm not quite sure they can stop Tom Brady. So the first point of the season, Dimitri. All right. So, if we were making an election comparison where the Raiders and the Broncos are at the Trump and Clinton level, the Browns are more, well, we'll say Jill Stein. The Cowboys beat down the Browns yesterday, and Dak Prescott had another incredible game. It continues to make it more difficult for the Cowboys to go back to Romo when he's healthy and ready to go. But Meech, you believe Romo should play. Convince me that you're right.
Well, obviously I'm not going to argue that Dak Prescott hasn't been having a great season because he certainly has. But I implore everyone saying not to bring Romo in to look back at the last time Romo was fully healthy in 2014 when he posted career highs in both completion percentage and passer rating and total QBR. Behind that offensive line, which we all know is probably the best in the league, he also has Ezekiel Elliott now, who's by far one of the best pass protecting backs in the league. I feel like if they can keep Romo upright, we've seen what he can do in the stretch. He's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league when he's healthy. I think they should make the switch to Romo, but I'm not taking anything away from Dak Prescott for sure.
But like you say, the last time Tony Romo was healthy was in 2014. He has a problem with staying healthy. And if you got something going for you, if it ain't broke, don't break it. Dak Prescott is the first rookie quarterback to win 7 of their first 8 games in the Super Bowl era. Him alone with Ezekiel Elliott, those 2 rookies are handling business for the Dallas Cowboys, and they have the best record in the NFC, and it shows 71. And they arguably could be 8-0 if it wasn't for Terrence Williams in that first game with the Giants. So I'm with the Dak wave. I say you play him until he makes the mistake because Tony Romo is the starting quarterback. But like we have the wave going with Dak, you don't want to break it.
And as much as I can agree that Tony Romo is a great quarterback and can be one of the best in the league when healthy, he hasn't been healthy, and that's been his biggest problem. So point 2 goes to Carl. And moving forward. Moving on, our very own Blake Bortles looks like he's getting worse by the week. The former UCF standout has regressed from his up-and-coming star status to one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. The Jags haven't done much to help Bortles on offense. So is the blame more on the coaching in front office or Bortles himself, Carl?
I believe that it's because of the front office and the coaching. You can see it in Gus Bradley's record. He's the first 3 years of his coaching for the Jags, he hasn't been good. They haven't made the playoffs. They're significantly under 500. And in the front office, the GM hasn't put the talent, especially in the offensive line, for Blake Bortles. He's been one of the most sacked or hit quarterbacks since he's been in the league, even despite the 30-touchdown year he had last year. If you think Gus Bradley is a great coach, they would transition and go forward. But unlikely, they haven't been going forward. And Blake, is some of the blame on Blake? I would say so, but majority of it to me is in the front office and the coaching.
And what you said is true. Gus Bradley's record as a head coach speaks for itself. He's 14-42, a 25% winning percentage. As a Jags fan, it's been a tough couple of years for me, especially from UCF, seeing Blake struggle. It seems like he's still having the same issues that he suffered with during his rookie season, and that's he's plagued with the turnover bug. If you go back and look at the last couple seasons, you can almost trace every single Jaguars loss to a Blake Bortles turnover at some point in the game. And plus, he still kind of has he throws temper tantrums a lot when he makes mistakes. And from a franchise quarterback and a team that's this young, and we have guys that are used to winning. We're starting to see it now. Jalen Ramsey, Malik Jackson, freaking out. Like Blake Bortles needs to get his stuff together so these guys can look at him as a leader. And right now, he's not doing it.
Going into this segment, I really wanted to agree with Carl on this topic, and I really wanted to say that it was the front office and it wasn't Blake's fault. Meech, you convinced me otherwise. I think on this one, you're right. It comes down to leadership, and it comes down to he needs to learn from those rookie mistakes. Point number 2. All right, well, there are two teams that started slow this year, but have won a couple of weeks in a row. Those teams would be the 3-5 Carolina Panthers and the 4-4 Miami Dolphins. Carl, which one of these teams is more ready for a second half run to get to the playoffs?
If I have to choose one, I would choose the Dolphins, but I'm not too confident in either one of those teams making the wild card because they're both at least 3 games out of the division. But for the Dolphins here, the next 7 games, the combined record of these two teams, they're playing 29-36-1 for the Dolphins. As for the next 7 games for the Carolina Panthers, the combined records of their opponents, 34-22-1. So the Panthers have a steep hill to climb, being the defending NFC champions. And with the stellar play of Jay Ajayi for the Dolphins so far these last 3 games, I feel like if it's anybody between those two, I say it's the Dolphins who make the wild card.
I'm actually going to disagree with you here. If you had to choose between a playoff quarterback, are you going to choose the reigning MVP Cam Newton, or are you going to roll the dice with Ryan Tannehill? And Dolphins fans that I know, they don't like Tannehill. Tannehill's not that great.
I count as one of those.
Yeah, Tannehill's not that great of a quarterback. With the Carolina Panthers, you have the track record now. They've won the NFC South the last 2 seasons. They have the reigning MVP. Their defensive front 7 is arguably one of the best in football. It's the secondary that keeps getting torched. But if you think about the division they're in, we've seen the Atlanta Falcons collapse in the second half of the season. We've seen the New Orleans Saints be a beaten down team that can only rely on their offense. I think that given the chance, the Panthers can rally back and really maybe even win the division.
It's a tough one, and I'm going to have to go with Carl here just as that disappointed Dolphins fan, feeling like, you know what, maybe we got a shot. And the final question for you guys, it really comes down to this. It's the Monday Night Football game. Who you got between the Bills and the Seahawks?
Well, I have the Bills. LaShawn McCoy's back for the Bills. He's been running the ball exceptionally well the last couple times he's been in for the Bills. The Seahawks, the defense has still been good, mostly on the passing game. The running defense is not as strong as it has been in the past. Tyrod Taylor mixing in the run with the pass, keeping the defenses guessing. I think that's going to be the X factor tonight for making sure the Seattle defense can stay disciplined, but I have the Bills.
I have to disagree with you there, Dimitri. I believe the Seattle Seahawks will take care of business at home. The 12th man is always a factor in these games in Seattle. Russell Wilson is definitely getting back to his healthy ways, and look to see the Legion of Boom get after Tyrod Taylor and LaShawn McCoy.
Oh, this is a really tough one. I want to believe the Seahawks can win, but defense does travel. The Bills are a defensive-minded team. They do have a better running game, and Russell Wilson hasn't thrown a touchdown in 3 weeks. How are you supposed to win that way? Meech, I'm going to give you this one, and we'll see you after the commercial break in the next round. So coming back after this, we'll be back with Jimmy Calhoun and Chris Davis talking a little bit of NBA.
Today, when you have multiple devices at your fingertips, wouldn't it be great if you could run the software you need on all of them? Well, now you can. UCF Apps is a new and innovative way for you to access the applications that you need to get your coursework done from any PC, Mac, tablet, or smartphone. For more information or to give your input on UCF Apps, go to apps.ucf.edu. What are you waiting for? Start using UCF Apps today.
Lake Claire's Universities of Central Florida's place for relaxation, tranquility, and a good time. Students who crave the outdoors can experience the wonders of Lake Claire and all the benefits it has to offer. Lake Claire offers a wide variety of kayaks, wakeboards, canoes, and much, much more. All of this is free for UCF students and can be rented out every day of the year except for on football game days. Students can take advantage of the wide open spaces and throw around a frisbee with your friends, or attack the ball with our sandy volleyball court. Come by the dock, sit down, and enjoy the beautiful view of Lake Claire's clear blue waters. Located just off the side of Gemini Boulevard and Greek Park Drive, this bubble of nature is one you must check out after finals week. For more information and rentals, visit our website so you can enjoy Lake Claire today.
Today, when you have multiple devices at your fingertips, wouldn't it be great if you could run the software you need on all of them? Well, now you can. UCF Apps is a new and innovative way for you to access the applications that you need to get your coursework done from any PC, Mac, tablet, or smartphone. For more information or to give your input on UCF Apps, go to apps.ucf.edu. What are you waiting for? Start using UCF Apps today.
Welcome our next two panelists, Jimmy Calhoun and Chris Davis. We start the conversation with the NBA's newest budding rivalry, the Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant show. The Warriors beat up on the Thunder last week, but the story was more about the new Shaq and Kobe rivalry. Durant didn't reach out to Westbrook. Westbrook poked fun at Durant with his photography shirt, and there was clearly no love lost between the Thunder's bench and Durant. So I'll start with you, Jimmy. Who's going to have the better year amongst these two stars?
Statistically, it's obviously Russell Westbrook. I mean, he has a chance to average a triple-double this season. Kevin Durant's playing with 3 other All-Pros in Klay Thompson, Stephen Curry, and Draymond Green. He's not going to have the points, the assists, or the rebounds Russell Westbrook will have. Russell Westbrook has a chance to a chance to win 50 games this year with the Thunder and be a tough out in the playoffs. So I don't think those are empty stats that he's doing. Again, a chance to average a triple-double. I think Westbrook has the better year.
Jimmy, you're missing it. I got to go with the Silky Slim KD. You got to look at his stats. He's averaging 30. He's averaging 8.8. He's shooting 65% from the field right now. He's shooting 65% from 2-point, and he's never done that before. The last time he scored 30 points a game, 2013-14, his MVP season. Russell Westbrook's obviously going to put up big stats, but you have to realize KD is going to still put up big stats, and we've seen that in the first 6 games, seeing how efficient he's been from the field. Efficiency is what they're looking for, and efficiency is what I'm looking for in this argument. I'd have to go with KD in this one.
It's really tough to pick between these two guys. The two of them are really just two of the greatest that maybe the game has ever seen. But this year, after Durant has been able to take so much off and can take nights off, I'm going to have to give it to Russell Westbrook. So, Jimmy, you're getting the point here first. Durant's Warriors already have 2 losses on the year. Now, let's remember, last year's Warriors didn't lose 2 games until 5 days after Christmas. The question is not whether or not the Warriors are worse with Durant because, well, we're not ESPN's First Take. But, Chris, are they undoubtedly the best team in the West?
Undoubtedly? Wrong word to use to me when you're talking about the Warriors. I think there is a little bit of doubt early on. Defense is predicated off of finishing those possessions off with a rebound, and they're struggling rebounding the basketball. Currently, they rank 18th in the league. Last year, they ranked 4th in the league. So there's your thing. The only thing that's covering up some of those miscues is the fact that they're 3rd in the league with 10 steals a game. So they're getting turnovers to give them more opportunities at buckets. So for them to be undoubtedly the best team in the West, they have to shore that up. KD has to start going in and getting rebounds.
Rebounding is an issue for Golden State, but I think undoubtedly is the right word. They just got too much talent on the team. Again, like I said, 4 All-Pros. They have 2 of the top 5 players in the league, 3 of the top 15 players in the league, and 4 of the top 20 players in the league. They'll get the rebounding assured. They've got length. Kevin Durant's a 7-footer. Draymond Green can rebound with the best of them, and Zaza Pachulias can rebound as well. They'll figure out the rebounding issues, and when they figure out the chemistry and who to give shots to and when, they're going to run through the West, and we'll see them in the finals.
Yeah, Jimmy, I have to agree in the fact that they will get things figured out, and they will be able to get to a point where they're rebounding better or, they're able to play a little bit of better defense. But using the word undoubtedly right now with some of the players that we've seen in the West and some of the performances that we've had, look, they just don't look like the same team at the moment. And I know that's an overreaction, but to say there's no doubt, I'm going to have to go to Chris. From one super team to another, the NBA champion Cleveland Cavaliers. They're the last remaining undefeated team in the NBA, and the best player in the world might not even be the most valuable player on his own team with Kyrie Irving. Is this about another year of chemistry, less pressure because they won the title, or is the East just worse this year, Jimmy?
I think it's chemistry. I mean, all the reports the first 2 years in Cleveland was that Kyrie Irving and LeBron James and Kevin Love just don't get along. Kyrie wants to be the man, but LeBron is obviously the man, and Kevin Love just doesn't know his role. After they won the championship last year, Kevin Love figured out his role. LeBron James is deferring to Kyrie Irving, who he knows is the best point guard in the East, and no one can guard him. I mean, his handle and his finish are just incredible. And I don't think the East is weaker. I mean, the Celtics are better. The Raptors and what DeMar DeRozan is doing is incredible. And then you have the Hawks with Dwight Howard. The Pistons are only getting better with Andre Drummond. I think the East is even better, but the chemistry between Kyrie Irving and LeBron James is unquestioned right now. I think that's the reason that they're still undefeated.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you to an extent. But chemistry is not necessarily the word I'm looking for. The word that you pointed out was role. Kevin Love knows his role, 20-10 right now, and that's because he's comfortable sitting out there. He's comfortable taking it off the dribble. LeBron James, people are talking about all this triple-double stuff with Russell Westbrook. He's averaging 22, 8.8, and about 10.7 assists right now. And Uncle Drew, the man who takes your ankles every single day. That's the man that they're giving the keys to this ship to run this thing offensively. They've just done it night in and night out. So I feel that, with those pieces together, I think that we can say that these Cleveland Cavaliers are just better and they're just more prepared than they were a year ago.
Yeah, it really comes down to, I agree that they're a little more prepared. I agree that we get to the point where, you feel like the East might not really be any competition, but the initial word that Jimmy used was chemistry. And chemistry is the big thing. We saw the same thing with LeBron's Heat team. And speaking of LeBron's Heat team, we're going to talk about Dwayne Wade. The only team that might be any sort of competition to the Cavs, as much as this hurts to say, is Dwayne Wade's Bulls. All of a sudden, Wade is a three-point specialist. And even though they're only 3-3, they've shown flashes of greatness. So, Chris, is this team the real deal?
Heck no. There's no way in the world. Fred Hoiberg last year didn't even make the playoffs. To say that is to disregard the Celtics, the Raptors, my Detroit Pistons, all teams who are better than the Heat right now. The Heat, if the playoffs started today, would be in the 8th seed. And the 8th seed is not going to get it done as far as saying a team that can challenge the top team in the East. The question really should be, can they even challenge the teams that are upcoming ahead of them, whether it's the Raptors or the Celtics, who are both teams that are far better than the Chicago Bulls currently?
Yeah, I think Chicago can be a second-round team. I think they can finish 4th or 5th in the East, but I don't think they're better than teams like the Celtics, the Raptors, and the Hawks. They're right in that category with the Pistons and the Bucks. I believe because Rajon Rondo's playing great, Dwayne Wade is playing unbelievable, and Jimmy Butler's a star. So I believe they can get up to the 4th or 5th seed and win a series in the playoffs, but I don't think they can get past the second round because they're just not as talented as Boston or Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough with a team like this because, Wade is aging, Rondo, you're going to talk about chemistry, but if Dwayne Wade can play like he's been playing, I don't know. I guess it does come down to the fact that they're no real threat to anyone. So, Chris, you're going to get the point here. And the final question of this round. We've talked a ton about veterans in the league, but let's go to a team that's been surprisingly average this season. The Lakers are 4-3 after a victory over the Suns last night. Woohoo! And that's with a blowout win over the Warriors. Is this a sign of things to come for the Los Angeles Lakers, or is this start just a fluke?
I believe this is a sign of things to come. I mean, everyone talks about the Timberwolves young core, but D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson, Julius Randle, Larry Nance Jr., and Brandon Ingram. I mean, I could possibly just name 4 All-Stars in the next 2 to 3 years. We saw their potential against the Warriors. They're still young. D'Angelo Russell has shown signs of being a top point guard in this league at times. He's only getting better. Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench. Brandon Ingram, I mean, as a rookie, if you watch him, he reminds you of Kevin Durant as a rookie. I mean, it's just so many similar things. He can shoot off the dribble. He can drop. I mean, he handles like a point guard. The Lakers have some really nice pieces for the future, and I'm excited to see them.
Yeah, Jimmy, these are signs of things to come, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. This is a 20-25 win team this season. Yes, they are averaging 110 points compared to 97 a year ago. Yes, they are moving the ball at an alarming rate right now at 3rd in the league, but you can't anoint Brandon Ingram, KD, and anoint D'Angelo Russell, the second coming of Magic Johnson. You got to give these guys some time. Yes, right now, currently, they're 4-3, but they're going to be growing. There's going to be growing pains. We've seen it already. Already, Luke Walton has adjusted his lineup 3 different times, inserting Jordan Clarkson and taking him out, and also putting in Lou Will. So it's going to take some time. Yes, it's going to be a team that's going to be good down the line, but as far as this year, this is a 20-25 win team that's going to have some growing pains.
Yeah, so this is a tough one because we're talking about, is it a sign of things to come, more so than is this team going to be incredibly competitive? So where I have to agree with you, Chris, that this team isn't necessarily taking that championship level step quite yet, I still feel like this is something positive going forward that the Lakers can look into. So Jimmy, you're taking this one, and we're going to move straight on to the joust round. So Jimmy takes this one, and we're going to move on. I'm not even going to keep score here because it's going to be a sudden death final round in the joust. So we go forward to the joust. It's our final competition. It's Dimitri versus Jimmy. We're going to be talking college football, and it's just going to be one question this week. One question for our final round. So UCF took care of business this week against Tulane, winning 37-6. The defense helped with 3 pick sixes, but the offense really struggled in terms of getting the ball moving downfield, and that was led by freshman quarterback Mackenzie Milton. So the question going forward, UCF just one win away from a victory in and moving to a bowl game. So we're one win away from moving to a bowl game. Does UCF go back to starting quarterback Justin Holman with Milton struggling? We'll start with you, Jimmy.
No, I believe Mackenzie Milton has done enough as a freshman. He's thrived in Scott Frost's system at times. His game against UConn, I think he had 317 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. I don't even think Justin Holman has ever thrown 3 touchdowns through the air in a game before, and maybe 2 or 3 300-yard games. Justin Holman, as a senior, has just not shown that he should be the starter. Mackenzie Milton has some wins under his belt and is only a freshman and is only getting better under the system. I think you got to stick with Milton.
And Dimitri, do you feel like Milton is the future? Should he be the one really coming back, and has he proved himself enough to be the future of this program where you just keep going with him?
Well, I don't know if he's proved to himself to be the future of the program, but I think at this point you need to keep him in and set a precedent. Scott Frost comes in, he's building in this whole new system. You need to keep the young guys in because this is people he's recruited. And if you want to get the system rolling, because that's what this is all about, is recruiting the system, recruiting to the system, and having players that fit the system. And Mackenzie Milton, whether you like it or not, was recruited to play in this system by Scott Frost and his coaching staff when they first got here. So I feel like if they were to pull Milton for Holman, who hasn't been very good when he has played this year, it's an indictment not only on Milton, but maybe even the system. Like maybe the system is failing. So I think you got to roll with Milton, build towards the future, and as they keep getting these recruiting classes in to fit the system, fix this spread run sort of thing that we know Frost wants to run, I think that'll lead on with UCF.
Yeah, I mean, Milton's shown flashes of being Johnny Manziel.
Right, and I completely agree. That's why I'm calling him Mackenzie Money Milton. So in this situation, I have to go with Meach here, and that's because it comes down to the system. Are we UC fast? Like we've been advertising for weeks now. So Meach, you're going to get the victory and the night vision, so make sure to check our Twitter after. And fans, thank you for joining us for our first episode of Hitting the Field here at UCF. Make sure to check out our Twitter, Hitting the Field, for our night vision, featuring Dimitri Tzamaras, and further updates on the show. The Hitting the Field family is excited to be together again. Thank you for being a part of it. And lastly, if you live under a rock and you weren't aware, our presidential election is tomorrow. So we have a chance to take a step forward or not so much. So go vote, and we'll see you in 7 days. Oh, not even close.